I'm Diane Emerson, and I'm going to share with you how to set up a worm bin. This particular worm bin, in any case. I was very happy to find this old cooler at a thrift store that I got it for free. And one of the reasons I'm so happy about it is because it has a drain hole. Now, because it has a drain hole, the worm juice from the worms can just drain out, and I'll be able to collect it and then use it in the garden without any work. And also, I'm going to do something a little different with this worm bin. I won't fill the whole thing just with bedding. I'm going to use these heavy-duty plastic crates inside the worm bin. And they fit beautifully in here, 2 of them. And if you could, we'll come take a closer look at this. So these 2 plastic crates fit nicely inside. Now these do a couple of things. One is they provide more air circulation for the worms. And the other thing is that because there's 2 of them, when I want the worms to move from one to the other, I just stop feeding them in one of these, and they'll gull themselves over to the other bin. And then I can just take out the finished worm compost without any worms in it, or very few worms in it, and use it in the garden, and then put new bedding back in. So I'm really happy to find this system. And my research indicates that wood chips make a really nice worm bedding because they provide more air. One of the things that kills worms in a worm bin is lack of air. So I have a combination of wood chips and leaf mold that I'll be putting in these. And I'll show you after I get it done what it looks like. Okay, now about this spigot. The spigot fortunately did come out, which is nice because it makes it easy for me to work with. And I decided to put a little screen on the spigot so it keep it from getting clogged up. And what I used to make my screen was just a little mosquito netting and a zip tie, so neither of these things will disintegrate in wet. And then I'm just going to put that in there so that, there we go. So now there's a lovely little screen on the inside so that when the worm juice comes out, it's filtered. And if it does get clogged, I can easily take it out and clean it up. So I've raised the worm bin up on something that happened to be in the garage. It was just the right height, and we won't be using this. It's a catapult for family camp, and it won't be needed this winter. So I'm going to use it to raise up the worm bin, and I will set this empty Clorox and a filter, a funnel I made underneath it, so that when the worm juice comes out, it'll just go right into the jug. And when the jug's full, I have a beautiful jug of wonderful worm juice for fertilizer. And I'm really happy about that system. It's going to work beautifully. And now I will go ahead and dump in my worm bedding into those 2 plastic crates. And I'll leave space for the food scraps to go on top of the bedding. And my friend Barbara is going to give me some worms for these wonderful worm bins. So the other thing I will do once the worms are in is I will put some newspaper or cardboard over the top because I know worms really love that. And to make sure there are no pests that get in, I'll be putting in a piece of plywood over the top of this and weight it down with something so that nothing else can get inside here and either eat the worms or the food scraps I'll be feeding them. Okay, well, I'll show you some more later once we get it set up. Okay, so now our worm bin has been moved inside the garage, and I found a couple of things to put on the top of it. And today Barbara's brought over the worms, and so I can add the worms to the worm bin. And if you come in and take a look, you can see the 2 plastic bins with their worm with the media we're using, the bark chips, wood chips, and leaf mold. Okay, and so now here are the worms. And Barbara, how many worms do you think we might have here?
I'd say a few hundred. Anyway.
A few hundred. I'm looking in the back. There's 2 big fat raccoons running across the yard over
gosh.
there. That's why I'm distracted. Okay, so here we go. I'm just going to put them in the big bin here. I'll just put them on the top, and they'll find their way. Aren't they lovely, beautiful worms? Yes, lovely red worms. And now I'm going to put some food. And what I've done is, there's a lot of apples here. I've been processing a lot of apples, and I know worms really love apple peelings, so I saved them and put them in the freezer until I was ready. And I've been thawing them out, so now we have one of their absolute favorite foods. They should be really happy with this. And I'll just put a little bit on top. That'll be enough. And we'll see how that goes. Okay, so there's our worm bin. I'm very happy.